Hello everyone, I'm Georgia and this is The Sound of Georgia. You know, the Von Trapp children really have no personality whatsoever. Sorry there wasn't a video last week, and that in general the videos have been a bit all over the place this year, but it's been a pretty hard year for me. So it's been a bit harder for me to actually sit down and do all this stuff with the videos, with everything else that's going on in my life. Additionally, I just got my first dose of the vaccine, which I am really happy about, but it meant I was feeling extra shitty recently. So that's why the videos recently have been a bit all over the place. But there will be more. Back to the Von Trapp children. I have mentioned this in a few videos in the past, but we're going to dig into it a bit deeper now. Because really, the Von Trapp children in Sound of Music have no personality whatsoever. And when I say that, what I mean is each individual child has no personality. Every single one of the Von Trapp children are reduced to one single personality trait. And sometimes it's not even really a personality trait. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Somebody who's mature and yet still kind of naive and smart and kind of cheeky and maybe a bit closed off is a very well-rounded character. That is a good basis for a single character. The thing was, though, each of those things I mentioned corresponds to a single Von Trapp child. Each of the four things was from a different one of those Sound of Music siblings. And you'll notice I only said 4. But let's go through the children and work out their character. So let's go through the children and list off their one characteristic, because that's really all there is. Lizel's entire character is that she is 16 years old. She is a slightly bigger character than the others, but that is solely because she's the B-side romance. She kind of has two parts to her character, but both of them tie back to being 16. 16 and almost an adult, and then 16 and first love. Both of them are very different. Both of those tie back to the fact that she is 16 years old. It's got two facets to it, but since they both tie back to the same thing, you can say she only has one characteristic. So, Friedrich is the oldest boy. Louisa is kind of stubborn and a bit closed off. It's kind of hinted that she's the mastermind behind the pranks, but you never really see too much of it. In the movie, the only real pranks they pull on Maria are the frog in her pocket and the pine cone on her chair, and we don't see who does either of them. The timer prank from the past is brought up during Do Re Mi. Kurt's the one that brings it up, which brings us to him. He's kind of cheeky. Brigitte is smart and observant. Marta. Oh my god, I feel so bad for Marta. Marta has 0 characteristics. Marta has no personality at all, and it's not her fault. It's Gretel's fault. Marta and Gretel have the exact same personality traits of nothing whatsoever, but because Gretel's the youngest, that's what defines her, in much the same way that Friedrich is defined by being the oldest boy, which is his entire character. So because of that, Marta is left behind. Through no fault of her own, Marta does not only have no character, but no real defining features. They really are one 7-part character. And even then, the characteristics of Friedrich and Marta and even Gretel, by which I mean none whatsoever, aren't really part of that. Now, that does not mean the children aren't incredibly interesting and captivating characters and we love to watch them, but their personalities, as written on paper, are non-existent. Yeah, in the movie, Gretel comes across as a bit stubborn, but that is entirely Kim Karath. That is entirely her portrayal of the character. But if you look at the musical, and more than one version of the musical especially, you'll notice that Gretel doesn't always have that sort of stubborn edge that Kimmy gives her, which means the stubbornness is part of Kimmy's portrayal and not really part of the character of Gretel herself. And that's really what it is. When you watch the movie, you absolutely love the children, and they're all so wonderful and engaging, and you just want to be with them and dance around with Maria. But that is 99.9% the actors. And the actors are fantastic. You get the vibe watching the musical that Gretel's stubborn, and you get the vibe when you watch the movie, you kind of get the vibe that Gretel's a bit stubborn and that Marta's really shy. But that is pretty much entirely because of Kimmy and Debbie's portrayal of them. In the movie, during the argument scene, Maria calls out Louisa as the one she doesn't know yet. In the musical, it's not Louisa, it's Marta that she doesn't know yet. So Marta especially, Marta's the one I feel the most sorry for because she has literally nothing to work with. So let's talk about my favourite, which is Friedrich. And as I said, his entire characteristic is that he's the oldest boy, which is kind of like Gretel's in the fact that it just describes him. His entire identity is tied to which sibling he is. He does an amazing job playing him, and part of the reason Friedrich is my favourite is because of Nicholas Hammond. I want to make videos about Nicholas specifically because Nicholas Hammond is a fanboy for his own movie. When you next watch the movie, keep an eye on Friedrich, because Nicky is having so much more fun than any of the others. The others are having a great time as well. But something about Nicholas was in love with the movie before they even started filming. He was making a movie with Eliza Doolittle, and that meant he was the luckiest kid on the planet. The way Nicky portrays him, I'm kind of reminded of the line in the musical version during the argument scene. As I said, in the musical it's actually Marta that Maria hasn't got to know yet. So what she says about Louisa is actually, Louisa wants to have a good time, you've just got to let her have a good time. And honestly, I feel like Friedrich, as portrayed by Nicholas Hammond, kind of fits that bill. He is just having the time of his life. First scene where they've just met Maria and they're all crowding around her, and I imagine this is the time where, in-universe, the frog gets slipped into her pocket. Nicholas can't keep the smile off his face. But it's not Friedrich that's having the most amazing time ever. It's Nicholas. Brigitte is smart. She's always carrying a book when we first meet them. Maria says she's the one who notices everything. And in the musical, she's the one to tell Maria that the captain is in love with her. And can I just say that as much as I love the ITV live version, it is hands down my favourite version of Sound of Music outside of the 1965 movie. I'm sure the actress is a lovely girl, but she just looks dead-eyed and robotic for the entire movie. And then with NBC Live, which has a whole host of problems that I've mentioned before, Brigitte is the best of all the kids in that version. Honestly, she might even be my favourite thing overall. We hear that Brigitte is very observant and that she notices things, but we never actually see that in practice. We do in the musical because she's the one to tell Maria about her father's feelings, but not in the movie. So you could argue she had even less character in the movie. The other thing is, because the movie is so big and there is no way to access any production or anything about the Sound of Music that happened before 1965, there's no way to readily access any of the pre-movie productions. So there's obviously a lot of influence from the movie used in the productions now. Kurt's kind of cheeky, and both of these boys have a cheeky / humorous kind of vibe to them. But how much of that is the influence of Dwayne Chase's performance? Because obviously not every actor in every production takes influence from the performance in the movie. As I said, Kimmy's Gretel is stubborn in a way that most Gretels aren't. Personalities of the Sound of Music children on paper are non-existent. They are reduced to one single character trait, and sometimes that character trait is really nothing more than a descriptor. Friedrich and Gretel's entire characteristic is where they fall in the birth lineup. Marta doesn't have anything to distinguish herself like those two do. So, why do we love them? Well, as I've said many times before, they are one 7-part character. For the vast majority of the story, they are all together and they act as one. So when you pull them apart individually, there's nothing really to them, but when you put them all together, as they are for most of the musical, they are a well-defined and well-fleshed out character. And on top of that, you have the performances. Each of these actors are super captivating, and they do the best with what they have. And considering all but one of them were underage, with Kimmy at the youngest being 5, and with Nicholas and Heather being 14, 15, Heather's actually a bit older than Nicholas. R.I.P. We miss you, Heather. Charmian, also R.I.P., was the only one who was older than 18. She was 21. So with 6/7 of the children being underage and not necessarily super experienced, I mean, many of them had done acting before, but not all of them. Even with all of that, they managed to do a great job at sucking you into the characters. And you fall in love with them because of the actors. And I think you could almost say that when it comes to the children's character, that they have the character of the actor, in a way. And I'm almost certain that in future productions, the kids have drawn on the characteristics and performances from the film for inspiration, whether consciously or not. Because in fact, when you actually look at the way Maria describes Kurt in both the musical and the film during the argument, she doesn't really mention him being cheeky at all. She mentions him being kind of sensitive, and yet cheekiness and humour stands out a bit more than sensitive to me. The other thing everybody thinks about Kurt is how he's always eating, but that's taking one line and giving him an entire personality around it because there is so little otherwise. All in all, I truly believe that the roles of the Von Trapp children in The Sound of Music as written down on paper are non-existent. But the reason you connect with them is because, for the most part, they function as one 7-part character. So when you combine the one personality trait each of them has, it makes a fully fleshed character. And because they spend most of the musical functioning as one unit, you don't really notice how bland they are on their own. The other reason they don't feel really bland and really boring is because of the actors. Obviously every interpretation of a performance by a different actor is going to be, well, different. For better or worse. I love the ITV one so much, but I have to say it, the kids in the NBC one have more personality. The acting in that movie is passable at best, but that is totally a directorial thing, it's not the actors, and the accents are painful, but the characters don't seem like robots. I'm sure these children are wonderful people, but their portrayals are so bland. And that's it for everything today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Do you agree with me that the Von Trapp children have basically no personality? Looking strictly at the characters with no outside material whatsoever, they're really bland in my opinion. But what do you think? Stay safe, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my video next time. So long for now!